S3 Archery, and we've been getting a lot of requests lately asking how do I practice, or how should I practice, basically, for the subscribers who's writing to us. So I did a little bit of time, thought about this, and every single person is going to be different, but I think there are some common themes that you want to consider while practicing, and I thought we could maybe discuss that today. So I could focus on myself, of course, and what I'm doing to practice, but also basically just the couple of different primary categories that you want to consider before you go out and practice. So the first thing with practice is that I wanted to call out is always know what you're trying to accomplish. Have the end in sight. So it makes no sense if you're trying to become an expert shooter from 40 yards to sit and practice all day from 10 yards. It just doesn't make any sense. You need to know that what you're trying to accomplish is being good at 40 yards. So same thing if you're practicing for hunting, or if you're practicing for form shooting, or if you're just practicing for fun, you need to know, why are you out here? Why are you on the range practicing? So that's really the first primary key, and in my mind there's a couple different categories within that. Why are you practicing? So the very first category is the one that I prefer the most, actually, and that's form shooting. And what I mean by that is your lefts and rights. So if you have very good form, you're going to have very few lefts and rights. You may have ups and downs. Your yardage estimation may not be as precise if all you worry about is form, but it's much easier to correct ups and downs yardage estimation than it is to correct lefts and rights if you're having those issues. So going out to the range and only worrying about your form and missing left and right is one type of practice that you can do. And while people around you may watch and you may be missing high and low all the time, and they think that you're not having that great of a day, in theory, if you put a vertical string, if you put a line vertically down your target and every single arrow was stacking up on that line, you're actually having a fantastic day if you're doing form practice. So it's kind of similar with like blank bale shooting for compound shooters. It's trying to get a feeling maybe in your back muscle, probably maybe it's a feeling in your arm, or it's a feeling with your mouth. You're seeking out some kind of a feeling that makes the arrow go in the direction that you're aiming. So even if you have perfect yardage estimation, it doesn't do you any good if you miss by a foot or two every single time. So that's my favorite type of practice, and that's one type. The next type of practice that you can do is yardage estimation practice. Very different type of practice in my mind, and you don't really want to be working on the two at the same time, the form practice and yardage estimation. You want to make sure that your form is pretty good before you go to yardage estimation, because like I just said, it does you no good to be missing a target 2 or 3 feet left and right, even if your yardage estimation is perfect. But with yardage estimation, the difference between the form shooting and the yardage estimation is that with form shooting, you can sit at one position the entire time, whether it be 10 yards or 20 yards, and you're just shooting, trying to get your lefts and rights better. Whereas with yardage estimation, you want to do just the opposite. You want to make sure that you're not shooting more than 2 arrows at any given distance in a row, because really your only instinctive shot is the first time you're shooting from a certain distance. So you want to try to vary that up as much as possible. So out here, we're at the Elm Creek Archery Range in Maple Grove, Minnesota, and they have ranges going anywhere from 10 yards all the way out to 50 yards. And what I would do if I was working on my yardage estimation is I would sit at about 20 yards, and I would aim over at the 10-yard bale, shoot it, go over to the 30-yard bale, shoot it, go to the 20-yard bale, shoot it, and you're constantly making your brain work and think about how far these distances are and become better at that yardage estimation. So that's the second type of practice. And the third type of practice that I wanted to talk about is really your stance. I mean, that's a really big deal. So anyone who watches a lot of our videos knows that I have a very predetermined pre-shot routine, if you will. So when I shoot, I'll get very perpendicular to my target. I'll look at it, and then right before I take the shot, I kind of go down and I go into a squatted position to get some balance to myself and a nice sturdiness. and then I take the shot with pretty much the same level of cant every time, because I'm just trying to be as precise as possible, and I'm not practicing for any kind of a hunting scenario or any type of altered stance. I just am trying to be as good as I can be from the position I know works best for me. So if you're somebody who wants to shoot underneath trees and you want to shoot like this, or sometimes you're going to shoot between trees and you need to be super vertical, you need to practice those things. You cannot stay out there and have a 10-degree cant every single time and then think that when the first time that you cant it, 90 degrees, you're going to hit what you're aiming at. It just isn't going to happen. So make sure that you're getting out there, and if you know you're going to take shots from different positions, practice those positions. It only makes sense, but so hard to do. So, and the final thing that you really need to think about when you're going out and practice is, are you practicing for a hunting scenario? So similar to the stance, but a little bit different, because we're going to put into the equation yardage estimation, or the yards that you're going to shoot from. For myself, when we go turkey hunting in the spring every single year, and when we go turkey hunting, my blind is going to be a 5 to 10 yard shot. So knowing that there's no other shot, it's only 5 to 10 yards, knowing that, what good would it do me to walk over to the 30 yard or 40 yard range and be shooting all day right before I go turkey hunting? The answer to that is, it would do no benefit. I mean, it helps you not at all, because you're not going to shoot from that position. And also, when I'm in that blind, even though I just said I like to shoot from pretty much this position, when I'm in that blind, I have to have a significantly more of a cant and more of a back angle, because the blind is so small. In order to fit the bow in, I have to cant it quite a bit. So right before I go turkey hunting, I need to be doing all the practice I can with having my cant at that degree, whether it be 45 to 55 degrees. I need to be practicing that, because the arrow goes in a different direction based off of that. So those are really the 4 different types of practice in my mind, 4 categories to think about. There may be more. Feel free to post comments underneath the video if you can come up with any other type of practice for traditional archery. But those are the 4 primary categories. The next thing I wanted to talk about was your equipment that you're using when you're practicing. So right now I'm wearing a hoodie underneath here, along with my wool Asbel jacket, and that's about it. I try to keep it as thin as possible, because I need to have movement in archery. But it's very common right now. It's only 15 degrees out here, and I'm a little cold, but it wouldn't be that beneficial for me to get in this huge winter parka and try to shoot, and then when I go out shooting come this spring when it's a little bit nicer, or in the summer, or when I'm hunting and I'm wearing this exact outfit, it's going to feel completely different, and I'm likely going to shoot completely different, because the muscles I'm having to use, or the amount of fabric I'm trying to move with my back muscle, is different. So try to keep your clothing as consistent as possible to your actual shooting style. So I think that's really, really important, and something that's overlooked all the time is what you're wearing. And I think it really should be one of the first things that you're considering before you go out and practice. Figure out why you're going out and practicing, and then figure out, how can I wear as close to real world clothing as possible while I'm practicing. And then the next thing that you need to think about is the equipment that you're using. So anyone who's been following S3 Archery knows that we've had an onslaught of bows just coming in the last year. So for myself, I've got my Bear Archery Kodiak, I've got a Babu Legacy, I've got the Great Northern Bush Bow, and now I have a new Wood Longbow Stealth. I have 4 different bows, and that's a lot of fun. I mean, I could pick a different bow every single day and have constant variety, but I might not improve that much if I'm doing that. With traditional archery, you need to build a relationship with your equipment, especially with your bow and your arrow combination. You have to just put the time in, and consistency. That is the key to instinctive archery, doing the same thing every time so your brain can start to figure it out. So I think it's really important, if you are one of those people like myself who have a lot of bows, have a lot of different arrows, like to play around, try to fight that temptation and stick with one combination of bow and arrow for at least 2 weeks at a time. Give your brain a chance to adapt to the equipment and figure it out. Because if you're just constantly switching every day or every other day, you're going to feel like you're shooting very poorly, but the fact of the matter is, it's just that your equipment is changing every day, and the way that the arrow comes off the bow is just different based off those combinations. So that's an important thing to consider. Next thing to consider is the number of shots that you take at a time. So a lot of people, you'll see their quivers just filled with 15 arrows, and they'll just get into a mode where they're just pulling arrows and they're shooting as fast as they can. And then you'll see other people who only shoot one arrow at a time, and then they go down and get it. What's the deal? I mean, why are they doing that? And really, in my mind, the difference is, it goes back to, are you just trying to get into a routine and, you know, kind of be in a trance where you're not looking for precision, you're just kind of looking for accuracy, looking for a feeling, trying to shoot the same way every time, but you're not necessarily trying to hit a quarter, versus the person who shoots one shot at a time and is trying to put all of their concentration and focus into that one shot. So you need to figure out what kind of a shooter you want to be and what kind of practice you want to do. Are you wanting to, when we look down on the range down here, we've got our target, it's got a nice big yellow bullseye. Are you just wanting to never miss the yellow, or are you actually trying to hit the bullseye inside that yellow? If you're just trying to hit the yellow, you can maybe hit, shoot 5 to 10 arrows in a row and just try to get into a routine and get very instinctive with that. But if you're trying to hit the bullseye, it's very unlikely that you're going to have any kind of precision whatsoever shooting that many arrows in a row, because instinctive archery does require intense concentration in order to make it happen. So that kind of leads into that topic, accuracy versus precision. So accuracy, in my mind, is if you shoot 10 arrows in a row and your bullseye is the center of my chest and all 10 arrows are right here in a big clump, you are very accurate, but you're not very precise. You didn't hit what you were aiming at, but you did the same thing every single time. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, let's say you shoot 10 arrows and 3 arrows hit the dead center of this ring in my chest, but then there's one here, there's one up here, one over here. You are pretty precise when you hit the bullseye, but it's not very consistent. You're not very accurate. You can't do the same thing over and over again. Personally, I'm a huge accuracy guy. I like to see clumps of arrows together. I like to know I'm doing the same thing every time. I like to know that if I get the right arrow bow combination and I put the time in with it, it's going to do exactly what I thought it was going to do. And if you're missing every single shot over here, if you just put the time in and shoot hundreds, if not thousands of arrows, that grouping will start coming over. You'll just start to learn it, and all of a sudden you have a really nice grouping here. Whereas with the precise person who has a couple arrows here, but then they're scattered all over, there's not a whole lot to work with there. You don't know, I mean, what about when you miss here? Should you aim farther left, or is your brain going to bring it left? But what about the one that was over here? How do you bring that one right? So I think that accuracy is a little bit more important than the precision when it comes to practice, but that's my own opinion. So take that for what it's worth, but if you can, try to get clumps of arrows. Don't let your arrows spread out too much. And whether that's you're missing high and low and you need to work on your yardage estimation, or whether it be a form issue, that kind of goes back to those first two categories that we were talking about to start this video. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is fatigue. People don't think about this at all, but we are human beings. We are not machines, and we cannot do this. We cannot be pulling back 40, 50, 60 pounds all day. It just isn't possible, at least with any kind of efficiency whatsoever, or success. So I see it all the time. I see it with myself. I love shooting archery, and I'm out here, it's 8 a.m., it's 15 degrees, it's freezing out, my fingers are freezing. I'm going to shoot all day. I'm going to be here from 8 a.m. until probably 3 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon. I'm going to shoot all day, but you have to pace yourself because your muscles just fatigue when you're pulling. It's like weightlifting. You can't just take a curling bar and just be curling it all day at 45 pounds or 50 pounds. You have to stop at some point and leave it alone for 5-10 minutes, come back, and you can probably do 5 more. Stop, leave it alone, come back and do 5 more. You have to pace yourself because fatigue is a huge issue, and you may find that when you first start, you are incredibly accurate, incredibly precise. Your form looks like this, but as you shoot more and more, you start coming in and you're getting smaller and smaller, and you're actually training your brain to start shooting from a more crunched up position because your muscles were so fatigued you couldn't get to the proper positions. So keep that in mind and make sure that you're not practicing when you're too fatigued. So that's really my video on practicing and how I practice, or what I consider when I practice. So hopefully it's beneficial to you all. Go out and give it a shot. Like I said, the main primary thing to remember from this video is make sure that you're practicing with the end in sight. Make sure you have a point to your practice. Just don't go out and just do things to do things, because you're not focusing your energy on anything, so you're not going to improve at all. So that would be the one thing I'd ask each of you to take away from this video, at least, is just make sure that before you go out and practice, just tell yourself, I'm going to work on blank today, and then just stick to your guns and make that happen. So hopefully this helps. You know, all of you have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to sit here on the range all day and I'm going to shoot, and hopefully you guys go to the range as well. It's going to be a beautiful day today, so go out there, have some fun, shoot straight, and we'll see you soon.